Alright. I'm here to, talk about something that we have heard sound a little boring, but hopefully you'll see the aspects of using AI in lending that perhaps was not evident, is not evident to the outside world. With developing, so I recently joined L&T Finance as kind of one of the characters, and monster title stands for Chief AI Officer. What I'm here to talk to you about is how we are making a change in the lending. Almost every one of you in Bangalore are probably very familiar with this scene, right? The dark secret of e-commerce in India is that it rides on the back of these guys riding this little two-wheelers. Each of them was about 2 lakhs, sometimes less. And if you think about a typical loan of 15% interest rate, then that comes to about 7,000 rupees of EMI a month. Now, if you think of that in the context of these gig economy workers making only about 50,000 a month, that's a fair chunk. And if you look at their bank accounts, and we have as part of the same group over tax, only about half, 10% of that they can fork over as ongoing. So when they go to a traditional lender, they get rejected a lot and get bad offers a lot because of the lack of the credit history. A lot of them, this is the first time ever that they need to borrow money for anything. And because of gig economy, irregular income, right? Sometimes they make money, sometimes they don't. And a lot of these are young folks, so not a very long employment history. And oh, by the way, all of the traditional bureaucratic documents, a lot of them are furnished as proofs to prove that they are very working. So what happens? They end up making them an offer that they can't accept. Either the EMI is too high or the down payment is too high. And we have been seeing this in our own books as well. We are one big two-wheeler lenders in the country. More than 1/3 of customers, 36%, come without a credit history. And so, with the traditional credit signals, we end up making them offers that almost half of them don't take. So that's a lose-lose scenario, right? So how are we planning for this? We look not just at credit data, but we are looking at a whole universe of data. We are looking into their bank statements with, of course, their consent, and we are looking at UPI transactions, how much people are paying them, how much they are paying, on what aspects are they using the money, and so on and so forth. Where do they live? Do they come from a very fraud-prone area or not? And we have been in business for long enough that we have a lot of historical data with which we can build machine learning models, whether other like performance becomes the target variable for building individual models for data sources of this type. Credit bureau models, banking models, payment data models, and finally, we are using a source of data that classifies all of India into 200 million grades and classifies them in terms of the affordability and fraud analysis there. And from there, we then do some probability ensemble And we do this in two different ways. One for people who happen to have a credit history, and ones for whom, like I mentioned, don't have. That results in a model that is far better and far sharper in distinguishing between people who are truly worthy of getting our loans and those who are not. So how does this typically work? So imagine a bike purchaser walking into a showroom and they take their pick of which bike they want to buy, and then they come to our desk and look for financing. Now when they do that, we use this AI engine at the back that we call Cypher, one with the big eye in here and everything, that then pulls the bureau data, the banking details, the payment details, their geographical location scores, and so on and so forth, using various different kinds of APIs. These APIs can be an API hitting a traditional credit bureau, a CIC, what we call them, or it can hit a payment aggregator who aggregates all of these UPI and payment information, or it can hit an API to their bank or their banking aggregator, and also it can hit that API that I mentioned from their laptop of their home address to where they are. We bring all these support those models that I mentioned how we train, and voila, hopefully, if the guy is good enough, then they'll ride into the sunset, riding the bike of their choice. Now, how does it look like from a user's perspective, a borrower's perspective? So we actually sent a group of MBA students from Cypher University out to the field to actually talk to these customers and understand that. And they came up with a terrible kind together. Steve Jobs used to say that a sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from man. In a country like India, with so much poverty and so much desperation and so little trust, what the users feel here, because they don't see all these data exchange and model scoring happening underneath, what they feel here is that we trust them, that yes, they can actually take the client and pay us back. So in an environment where trust is in such short supply, trust is human, trust is beautiful, and trust is magic. I told you how we are using these data sources today in order to build cycles. We're not going to stop here. We are methodically looking at a whole host of external data sources that we can bring in and sharpen this model over every single generation and get it better and better and better. And we are also not going to stop just at 2 years. We are going to do this for urban India, for rural India, for tractors, for personal loans, maybe one day even for your mortgage. We will look at things like satellite images. We're going to look at data from our own apps. We're going to look at life skills. We're going to look at user profiles, employment profiles, policy available, portrait cards, and a whole host of other things. Now, one may ask, all this data does cost, right? So the acquisition cost, storing cost again. So, does it really make sense from a business perspective? So for that, we came up with our own KPI, a return on data. In a nutshell, think of it as you spend 1 rupee to acquire a certain amount of data for a particular group of customers, then how many rupees are you saving in terms of the credit losses that you would otherwise incur? And one of the ways you can do that, being a visitor technical audience, the methodology is on there. So basically, think of it as from a post-priority perspective, given that data, how much are your delinquency rates, and how much VAT if that data wasn't there, and then it's a straight-through calculation in terms of the average loan size and 1 year credit score and so on and so forth. So we did this analysis for the two-wheeler business for the data sources that we mentioned. And of course, this is going to differ from model to model, from application to application, from geography to geography, from data source to data source. But here's a curious pattern. If you look at the more traditional established sources of trust, like a bureau score, like Cypher, and you look at the ROE, the return on indirect investment from there, versus the return that you're getting from less traditional sources, like geographical profiling, like payment segregator models, and so on and so forth. Turns out these alternative sources of data actually have higher ROE. So there's a lot more of value out there, and that's why we're bullish about using more and more sources of alternative data to sharpen the way we deliver credit to audiences. Now, I talked about data so far in the sense of numbers in the column, right? Structured data. What about unstructured data? After all, there's far more structured data out there in the world than unstructured data. What do we do with that? Do we do anything? So for that story, let me take you to a very different part of India. In rural India, there is a sector of business called microfinance. Originally originated with Mohammed Yunus, now Bangladesh is chief economist, advisor for Government Bank. The concept is that a group of rural areas come together, form joint family groups, and then they get, even though they are poor and they do not have a traditional source of income, you give them very small loan amounts, typically about 40,000 rupees, and they are surprisingly able to pay a lot of it back. Today, this has taken flight in India in volume. There are 70 million plus borrowers, active borrowers of rural loans, of rural microfinance loans. There are 224 lenders out there, 220 out than us, and it's about 4 lakh crores worth of outstanding loans in this sector. Solves a lot of it, at a lot of women's empowerment, economic development in rural areas, and so on. We do our part in it. We actually in 60 states in microfinance. We have over existence touched the lives of 1.3 crore women with microfinance. Now, the way these loans work, it's a very hard business where you're trying to understand the patterns of creativity and all the things about rural women for whom traditional data sources and traditional signals don't exist. A lot of them are not digitally connected. A lot of them don't have smartphones. So how do you make sense of whether somebody would be able to pay this loan back or not beyond the very basic base? So we identified an interesting source of opportunity here. So we can actually use a source of image, we can actually use an image source that is almost always used in every loan, every banking transaction, or not banking transaction, but every banking account opening that you ever do. Anybody want to guess what such an image may be? Well, you don't actually take satellite image of your house every time you want to do an account, right? But you still have to provide a picture. Yeah, so KYC photos. So now, how do we use KYC photos? So if you think again about the rural scenario, it's a high-tech business. So what happens is, when a rural woman applies for a loan, typically we send one of our field officers to go to that village, to go in front of the home of that specific applicant, and then take a picture of them in front of our house, and sometimes even take a picture in the inside of the house. Now these images are not only capturing the applicant. The interesting part of this, the byproduct of this, is that you also get to see the type of house in front of which you're standing. Now we take these images, we put them through a model of them, and then we prompt it to give us what signals of what is it that is in the image that the LLM sees. We don't just stop it. We again have a lot of historical data, and we have a lot of learned data as well, from which we can actually score the level of, let us say, affluence that is evident from the signals that you can see from the picture of the image. And then we put a multi-shot learning prompt where we give a lot of these labeled examples in the prompt and ask it to score a number that we call lifetime index, by the way, copyright information by now. And by the way, this method itself, we have fine-grained it, so here's the thing. So anyway, so we get that score. And then that score now gives an objective measure of creditability that we simply did not have before. So that is one use of unstructured data. But again, we're not just standard. We're not just going to stop there. Then we start thinking, where else are data sources that we use? Turns out that when somebody asks for a loan, for a lot of applicants, we actually do a video verification, where our agent makes a video call to the mobile phone of the applicant, and they usually ask questions like, "Oh, where do you live? How you are?" and those kind of normal questions. But those are not the questions that are interesting here. You see, in a frame like that, you get to see things like, "Oh, isn't a room that has some furniture out there? You see a frame, you see some ceiling walls, ceiling fans. You can see some clean walls and those kind of things." And again, XRC is generated from article with the right prompts. Compare that to what we can turn now from another similar video call, but this time from an applicant who may have a far more modest circumstances. And there, you will get different signals. The signal will tell you that, oh, this is probably a kind of a banana shop with some, corrugated addresses roof or something like that. And again, from these, we can generate large signals that we can use to further enhance the sharpness of the model of how we want to proceed this application. So the previous one was external image of the house, this is internal image of the house. So this is what we call the internal life index. And not just that, somebody mentioned satellite images. We are beginning to do that as well. So we know the home location of the applicant, put it on the form, right? So you can then look at how does that house look like in the context of the neighborhood from Google Earth photos. And again, you can push it through similar kinds of mathematical LLMs with the right kind of prompts. And for example, this picture, it looks like a multi-story apartment building that is in a relatively structured, well-planned area. So yeah, probably this is a home of somebody who could have a decent apartment. Compared to that, pictures like this, they can actually identify, yeah, this kind of looks like slum. That picture was with the biggest slum. So again, satellite images just based on a user's home location gives a very good idea about whether somebody would be a reliable borrower when it comes to paying their EMIs. We talk about images. That's not the only source of unstructured data. Another avenue that we are actively looking at is psychometric indexes. So we talk about rural women and also we are looking at a few other microfinance opportunities and farm opportunities where we are coming up with a similar questionnaires that are designed in a way where there is no obvious right or wrong answer. Things like how do you manage your budgeting? What do you think of somebody who is constantly looking at new business opportunities and so on and so forth. And from the answers to this, we can score a multi-vector approach towards the psychometric profile of the patient. How conscious are they? What is their level of morality? What is their how much obligation to the field towards somebody they borrow money from? How do they have decision making? All these things. Beginning stages, eventually, this will also come into psychometric analysis. Now, I talked about a lot of things without using the word Kenya, right? So what about Kenya? Kenya has gone through its life cycle, right? And now, Zanda has settled doing all this. So, here's the way we're looking at it. We are using a prompt LLM, which is a generative AI, to generate actually an output score, right? But is that the final solution? It's still just a score. It still does not give me an actual suggestion, an actual actionable suggestion. What do I want to do with that application? For that, you go further. When you take that score and build a model, just like those type of models, that will actually give me an indication of the probability for the particular application. Okay. So what do you see here? You see the Gen AI is just a tool. It's not the complete solution. It is something that can be a complete solution, a very powerful solution, when you pair it up with more traditional machine learning models. So that is how I see the more interesting enterprise values that go beyond just chatbots and all the things that people are talking about, of where Gen AI is going to get AI. the future is that GenAI is going to be everywhere, but it's not going to be by itself. GenAI combined with other kinds of AI is where that lies. Now, how are we going around about and bringing this concept of having GenAI everywhere in the context of the finance? So the approach we are taking is as follows. We have taken a top-down approach where I actually headed an AI bootcamp for all of the executives in the company, and we methodically explored use cases and came up with a roadmap that we can execute. But we're not stopping there. We are also enabling the broader knowledge corpus in the company to go and use AI tools themselves and then come up with interesting use cases on, oh, I did this and figured out how to read this legal contract in like a fraction of a second, right? And then bring out the champions of such use cases, we will bring out the champions of such use cases, and then confirm the best ideas in the applications that then go back to it. And of course, we don't want to be selfish and keep all these ideas and all these insights and all these products for ourselves. We are outreaching to the broader AI community in the world and in India specifically. And we are going to hold an AI conference in which we are going to declare an L&T Finance AI Challenge. That will happen November 26th in Mumbai. It will be an invite-only conference, but and this is the first time, we're telling this to the rest of the world. If you want to express your interest, scan the QR code, and it will take you to a Google form in which you can put in your details, and if it is, if you would like so we would like to express interest, and we would when we start opening up the registration, we will include. So that's all I have.